welcome to another transition episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get. Welcome to our conversation on the 2024 Player's Handbook. I'm Adam, and with me are Dave and Kyle.
This episode is the first part in our discussion on what's changed between 5th edition and the new updated rule set.
Have you guys done any, flipping through the PHB yet?
A little bit. I've grazed.
Yeah, Dave?
Not really at all. I'm actually kind of itching to spread the cheeks on this book here.
Well, it's been a while since we've recorded, and I'm glad we're starting on that now. So the very first thing that I want to address is the concept of backwards compatibility. Up front, very first episode covering all of these books and whatnot, I just want to cover the fact that what does it actually mean? Because it is not a perfect match between the two editions. So first of all, what it's supposed to mean is that it applies to the adventures. So you can play Curse of Strahd with the new player characters, the new species, the new monsters that are provided in the monster manual. And if it's a adventure specific monster, then you just run it as is out of the back of the book. But it's not going to be perfect. They're not going to be as cool or neat or interesting because everything's getting an upgrade and an update. And even the monster manual, most of the monsters are getting a ton new shit. So I'm going to quote this directly because this is one of the things that confuses people. There's a little sidebar in the Player's Handbook that says, backgrounds in older D&D books don't include ability score adjustments. If you're using a background from an older book, adjust your ability scores by increasing one score by 2 and a different one by 1, or increase 3 scores by 1. None of these increases can raise a score above 20. Similarly, species in older books include ability score increases. If you're using a species from an older book, ignore these increases and use only the ones given by your background. Also, if the background you choose doesn't provide a feat, you gain an origin feat of your choice. I'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, I hopped on D&D Beyond to see if I could find anything there that's like, oh, hey, this is backwards compatible and this works perfectly and what's been published before. And it doesn't have any information except there's a little ribbon across the front of some of the books when you go to buy the book that says, compatible with 2024 rule sets. But it's only on some books, not on all of them. And the books that it says that for are Candlekeep Mysteries, Vecna, Eve of Ruin, Keys from the Golden Vault, Quests from the Infinite Staircase, The Book of Many Things, and Journey Through the Radiant Citadel.
Are those all the most recently published books?
No, Candlekeep is actually relatively old.
Yeah, we played that.
Yeah.
That didn't include Planescape, Phandelver, and Below, Glory of the Giants, Dragonlance, Spelljammer. These all came out since the Radiant Citadel. So it seems to be a handful of interesting anthology books, and then the most recent shit, like The Book of Many Things and then Vecna, Eve of Ruin. So there was a note when it came out that the Monsters of the Multiverse was going to be backwards compatible, and that's going to line up. But it doesn't look like it at all. It looks like those stat blocks are going to be relatively abandoned for the new format. But a lot of the monsters did get weird little upgrades and tweaks and inclusive proficiency bonuses and all that shit. So, maybe the monsters do, but the playable races don't because they're still called playable races and they still have, ability score improvements. So, the Minotaur in there is not going to count.
Okay, so hold on. So they had the original 5th edition monster manual.
Yeah.
Then they're like, no, we're going to get rid of that. Then we're going to do Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse.
No, that was not a replacement. That was, the Monsters of the Multiverse was a replacement for Tome of Foes and Volo's Guide to Monsters. Because those had big deep dives into drow and orcs, which were deemed problematic partway through 5th edition. Mm-hmm. So those got scrubbed, and they released this book with almost all of those monsters.
Okay, so this is essentially the new monster manual we're going to get.
Yeah.
Right? It'll be the 5th monster manual of this edition?
Well, no, this is...
Well, it's not this edition.
Yeah. So
you know what I'm saying.
The idea is that with the 2024 rule set, we'll have a brand new monster manual. It comes out by the time this recording has been out. This will be out for a couple of months, right?
Yeah.
And then that one is going to be up to date. The only other ones that monster stats we should pay attention to are the ones that are in the back of the adventures we're trying to run from 5th edition. Mm. And maybe Monsters of the Multiverse should be pretty good. It should line up okay. The CR rating is loose and shitty in the first place, so should be kind of accurate, maybe. So,
Yeah.
but the old monster manual, Volos, Tomofos, you can, if you have them, you can just not use them. Like all of that stuff's been replaced. So, the other thing that we should point out is that a lot of these books that we're talking about are going to be quote unquote legacy content, which means that they're not printing it anymore. It's already super expensive to buy Volos and Tomofos, and you cannot buy it on D&D Beyond. So if you don't have it already, you're never going to get it. They're going to continue to do this. Later in the year, we're going to get the Forgotten Realms campaign setting.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain Sword Coast Adventures Guide is going to get legacied. So if you don't have it, you're never going to get it. So
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about this is the edition and the compatibility. Do you think this was a good idea, or should they have just gone with a brand new edition altogether?
I mean, I think you gotta slow roll it out. It's going to be messy no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to create new content to sell. So, I don't know. It makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me.
It's not going to be perfect, but
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
It feels a lot like 3.5 versus 3.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. But you don't want to do that hard reset like you did from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Because you've introduced the majority of D&D players at this point are 5th ed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you don't want to get too far away from that.
Well, look what happened to 4th edition.
Yeah.
So, moving along, so we got a lot to cover today. Jumping into layout and structure. So, I want to talk about really quickly the fact that we get a huge increase with the Player's Handbook. We go from 316 pages to 384. And when you guys crack open, we have a Player's Handbook here. If you guys crack open the table of contents, you're going to see that there are a couple things that are just drastically different. First of all, the running the game stuff is up front. It's no longer buried in like chapter 6 or 8 or whatever. So it teaches you right from the beginning how to play the game. Then it gets into the classes, and then into the what's called origins, which is backgrounds and species. And then it gets into like eventually the spells, right? So there's equipment, I think, and feats in there as well, but like it teaches you the rules of the game. But the cool thing about this, and that we've never had before, is at the back of this book, here, let me show you, there is a handful of stat blocks for things like familiars and whatnot, and then we end up with a rules glossary. This is not just an index. There is an index, but there's also a rules glossary it's an alphabetical order where you can look up what an ability check means, what advantage means. This includes all the conditions, right? This includes how the different area of effects work. This includes a lot of the crunchy mechanical things where you're like, hold on, how does this one crunchy mechanic work, right?
So print this out and put it on your old DM screen.
Yeah, although it's long. It's a good solid 10, 12 pages, but this makes it so that it's referenced in the book, like, hey, when you do this kind of damage, it'll be, this happens. But then it will give you a more detailed version of description later in the book if you want to go to really get into the nitty gritty. Like, you need to know how dark vision works, it's here. It mentions you can dash earlier in the book when it teaches you about the mechanics, but this is where the dash mechanics are.
Yeah, it's nice that it's all in one place rather than having to flip through 6 different pages.
And there's no flowery words here. It's not like you move really quickly because your adrenaline is pumping. No, mechanic only, because when you're in this section, it's because you're looking something up at the table. How do you guys feel about this so far?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. A cleaner book is always good.
It really is cleaner. I found this so much easier to use. I know Dave is chomping at the bit to get his hands on it.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, I don't want it anymore. Yeah.
I'm going to move on to chapter 1. And we're only going to do the first 4 chapters today because there's a lot to cover. All right. So with chapter 1, it's called Playing the Game. And there are a handful of different changes that they've made here. The first thing is that all D20 rolls are now called D20 tests.
I hate tests.
At least it's not quizzes. Oh, thank you, Dave.
Okay, so out of curiosity, what was it called before? Because I don't remember.
It was always listed as ability checks, saving throws, and attacks, or death saving, or initiative rolls, or they're all just called D20 tests now.
Make it idiot proof.
Pretty much. So now when they have a comment in the book about you'll roll your D20 test against, that's what they're referring to. Saving throws now is a comment that says you can just choose to fail a save if you'd like to. That was never in 5th edition.
Yeah.
I know, like, we just homebrewed that shit anyway. I'd be like, hey, do you want to roll for this? No? All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess dex saves it's pretty much built in.
Right.
Do you move? No. All right.
But now, if you want to get hit by an effect or a spell or something, because there are some fucky instances where maybe you want to get hit by something to chain reaction something else.
Yeah, sometimes one willing creature doesn't cover everything you're looking for.
Yeah, right. So now you can choose to fail. So
choose to fail, yes.
we now have on the character sheet, I think there's 2 copies of it there. So, Dave, if you want to grab the other one. You'll see that things are laid out differently where the skills are all underneath the actual ability, which I think is a little bit helpful, but it does mean that people are going to have to hunt and search for a little while. But we also have this section called Heroic Inspiration.
I mean, I do like that your ability scores are underneath your abilities modifiers, because I know for most people, they don't write in all of their modifiers for every ability, right? They'll normally just go for the ones they're proficient in.
Yeah.
And they'll leave the other ones blank. So then you're going back and forth, but this, it's like right there.
Yeah, it's really useful, right?
Yeah.
Also, they've ended the conversation about which is the bigger number. It tells you this one is for the modifier, this one is for the actual score. So there is a sidebar for Heroic Inspiration. I'm going to read it out. Sometimes a DM or a rule gives you Heroic Inspiration. If you have Heroic Inspiration, you can expend it to re-roll any die immediately after rolling it, and you must use a new roll. Any die, no longer just d20s. You can re-roll damage.
Yeah. But only one.
Yep, you only get one at a time. You can never have more than one instance of Heroic Inspiration. If something gives you Heroic Inspiration and you already have it, you can give it to a player character in your group who lacks it.
Okay.
Your DM can give you Heroic Inspiration for a variety of reasons. Typically, DMs award them when you do something particularly heroic, in character, or entertaining. It's a reward for making the game more fun for everyone playing. Other rules might allow your character to gain Heroic Inspiration independent of the DM's decision. For example, human characters start each day with Heroic Inspiration, but you don't get more, you only get the one. I do believe, but I'm not sure because I haven't looked into it yet, this is independent of Bardic Inspiration.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what it was in the last edition.
Yes, but they're very specific now. You can have one, you can hand it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And the idea that it doesn't stack with other things, right? This is the thing.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different. I was surprised to see that. Also, our actions, we get a full list of actions now, and they're a little bit different. You still get an attack, but it's specifically, if you do an attack action, weapon or unarmed strike, hard stop. For a dash, for the rest of the turn, you give yourself extra movement equal to your speed. That's what it says. For the rest of your turn, give yourself extra movement equal to your speed. That made me think, okay, does that end your turn?
No, that to me, like, if I get a reaction on someone else's turn and I have 10 feet of movement left, I can still use that.
No, absolutely not. So
No, I think the idea is that you can take, let's say you now have 60 feet of movement, you can move 40 feet, use your bonus action, and then still move afterwards.
So all of this was a little confusing when it's written, when it's listed out, but you go to the rules glossary and it's got a deeper breakdown. So I wanted to use this as an example. When you take the dash action, you gain extra movement for the current turn. The increase equals your speed after applying any modifiers. With a speed of 30 feet, for example, you can move up to 60 feet on your turn if you dash. So you're just extending your movement. The dash action just extends your movement to be double, right?
Yeah.
If your speed of 30 feet is reduced to 15 feet, you can move up to 30 feet this turn if you dash. Like if you stand up, it takes half your speed, then dash doubles that. It doesn't add your original speed.
Interesting, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a special speed, such as fly or swim, you can use that speed instead of your speed when you take this action. You choose which speed to use each time you take it.
Okay. So you can't split it up. You can't do, I'm going to take
you can
20 feet in walking and then 20 feet in flying. You have to do it all in flying now or all walking.
Yeah. So for disengage, dodge, and help, they're all essentially the same thing. For hide, it specifies this uses the stealth. You can't hide by blending into a crowd with performance, right? So, of course, I would homebrew that. Absolutely, that would work. But influence is one of the actions now, and it lets you use animal handling, deception, intimidation, performance, or persuasion. There's the magic action now, which lets you cast a spell, use a magic item, or use a magical feature. So it's different than anything else. It's its own magic thing. Because there will be some spells and some instances where you cannot take a magic action. So it doesn't just shut down your spells, it shuts down any sort of magical ability. Like an anti-magic field.
I like that they broke it down a little bit. Honestly, in 5th edition, when it was an action, it got a little wordy because there's bonus action. There's right. Like even I remember in 3.5 it was a standard action.
Yeah.
Right?
So all of these are considered actions, right?
Yeah.
Ready is the same as it has been. Search action now includes insight, medicine, perception, or survival, which was interesting for me for medicine. I wasn't sure how I felt about that.
Because you're using like a first aid kit, I think is mostly what...
It's just interesting it's under search. I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a wound. I'm trying to figure if, what they're sick with, I guess. You're diagnosing. So, okay, sure. Study action includes arcana, history, investigation, nature, and religion. And utilize action just lets you use a non-magical object.
Okay.
You want to light the torch, right? You'll notice that athletics, acrobatics, and sleight of hand are not listed specifically, but there's a blurb underneath this section that essentially says, there are other things too, but these are the basics. Incidentally, you can, rules as written, use sleight of hand now to pick a lock. You couldn't before, we just always did it as a holdover from like 3.5 and other editions. Like, sleight of hand lets you do this. You're a thief, use thieves' tool, sleight of hand, right? It doesn't say anything about picking locks under sleight of hand or under thieves' tools. It actually says it under the description for the lock in the items section, which is a little bit buried and strange, but I managed to find that. So when it comes to resting, and I'm going to get into this in the next episode because there's a lot about combat and stuff, but adventurers, I'm going to quote this directly. Adventurers can't spend every hour adventuring. They need rest. Any creature can take hour-long short rests in the middle of a day and an 8-hour long rest to end it. It is very specific rules as written.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You can take hour-long short rests in the middle of a day and an 8-hour long rest to end the day.
Oh, okay.
Regaining hit points is one of the main benefits of a rest. Also, all the downtime activities and training rules and all that shit is in the DMG. So that got pulled out of this book.
That's probably good because that is a really thick-looking PHP.
Yeah, what did I say? It was 384 pages.
Damn.
As opposed to the 316 it was before. Yeah. So it got like a 20% boost.
All right. I mean, it has a bit about being the DM too, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning it says, do you want to be the player or do you want to be the DM?
Yeah.
If you want to be the DM, here's basically what you're going to do. You're going to need the DMG.
Okay.
So, next we're going to jump into really quickly creating a character. We talked about the character sheet a little bit. Did you guys look at the other pages?
Yeah. The spell lists.
Yeah, there's enough room now for you to write down the spells like wherever that you want to on it, right?
Yeah.
It's not really tiny sections that you can't list it all. And there's no section now for like draw your familiar or any of that shit anymore, right?
I was going to do that on the back of the paper anyways.
Probably. And you can see the spell slots are in their own unique spot on the list, but all of your information is clumped together nicely where you can find it, right?
Yeah.
So I always thought it was absolutely fucking useless to have gold listed on page 1 in 5th edition. So
yeah.
Also,
oh my gosh, I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure I've ever really worried about gold too much.
In 5th ed?
Yeah.
No. Well, you did Dungeons and Mad Mage for so long, so like you had limited opportunities anyway.
Yeah, but even then, like we were doing Candlekeep and stuff, like it was never really a thing. We haven't gotten into too much trading, doing the stuff that we do in our Sunday stuff.
Well, you haven't been there for a lot of it, and you also played the barbarian who just didn't have any, and you don't care, right?
Yeah,
and you just handed it off to others anyway.
Absolutely.
But, like Charlie and Dan obsess over it.
Yeah, but that's Charlie and Dan.
Yeah, fair.
I like how they split up species traits with feats as well, right? So it's not all in one big block.
Yeah. And it's supposed to just be listed out. Like you can see, these are my character sheets from the game I'm playing on Saturdays with Sean, and it is... I put descriptions in, there's enough room for it, but by the time that I'm level 18, I'm not going to need all of this information. It's going to have the name of the thing and be able to move on. So
yeah.
So in Chapter 2, it lists that now you can start by choosing a class and do the origins and species parts, 2nd and 3rd, and ability scores come after. Before, it was choose a species or a race first, and then choose your class. Now they want you to worry about ability scores and math after the fact. Figure out the style of play you want to do it. Then what's your role playing going to be? Now let's do the numbers.
That's how I did it before anyways.
Yeah, and I think anyone with any sort of real experience naturally does it that way, and now they're just showing you right from the beginning to do it in that order. For multi-classing, Rangers and Paladin levels, they round up now when you're figuring out your number of spell slots. In 5th edition, they round it down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, everything else in that section is stuff we've seen in 5th ed. So, moving on to character classes in Chapter 3. And this is going to be the bulk of the episode, I think. First of all, we're not going to get into specifics, but the mechanics of the classes and subclasses tend to skew in favor of more versatility and more damage output. These updates are huge for player agency. Each class has a section right at the beginning of their portion that lays out the benefits of starting the class as a level 1 character and the benefits of multi-classing into it.
Okay.
So you don't have to go to the multi-classing chapter anymore and figure that shit out. It's listed right on page 1 of every class.
Okay.
The lore is still light, but it does include a handy little chart right at the beginning with all your proficiencies and other core traits for easy reference. Like your armor proficiencies, your tool proficiencies, languages, that kind of shit. What your saves are. It's all in a chart. You can see it at a glance at the beginning. From what I could see, every class now, this is the only class feature I'm going to get into, they all get a new kind of feat called Epic Boon Feat at level 19. But it lets you choose a different feat afterwards. So there are multiple kinds of feats now.
Yeah.
And you get them sometimes as an origin when you build your character, and sometimes when you hit level 19 as well. And there are other ones in the middle. There's a reference in there about you can't choose a feat if you don't meet the prerequisites or you don't have a prerequisite feat, which means I think we're starting to see kind of feat trees like we've seen before, but I haven't dug into it yet.
I was going to say, this seems, when I started playing 5th, it really felt like feats was the thing that was missing.
Yeah.
Like they're there, they're certainly there.
But they weren't as important as they were.
Absolutely not. Yeah. In 3.5, my human fighters all had 30 feats.
Yeah.
Right? But,
which means they could run extra fast with 30 feet.
Mm. So, like that one, the level 19 feat, it's almost like a prestige class.
It's this thing. You get to this level, here's the list of epic boon feats.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Because they're fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Class spell lists are now what the classes now. So there's less flipping around in the book.
That's pretty good.
All the classes have 4 subclasses now. And they're just called subclasses. In 5th edition, they all had descriptive names like Druid Circles and Paladin Oaths. Now they're just subclasses, and the subclasses themselves will use the names if they want, like Circle of the Moon or Oath of the Ancients. But a lot of them, like fighters and rogues and shit, don't have a naming convention, so they just gave up on it. The only one that's actually really changed, wizards they no longer do the schools anymore, so there's no more Bard College versus Wizard School, and they gave up Way of the for monks to be Warrior of the. So now they're more combat oriented. So let's look at them really, really quickly. There are no artificers in this book. Unfortunately, they didn't get...
They weren't artificers in the original PHP last time either, so it's going to be the same.
Yeah, it'll be an Eberron.
It seems like a weird thing to not put in there.
It's the only one they don't do, right? Like it's so strange. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But at 384 pages,
what was another 4?
Yeah. It's also one of those things to encourage you to buy the next book.
Like, shit, round up to even 400, please.
So, Barbarian still has the Berserker subclass, but it's removed the exhaustion feature, so it's actually playable now. And the Zealot got an update and inclusion in the PHP. It wasn't in the original Player's Handbook. Totem Warrior is replaced by the spiritually similar Path of the Wild Heart. And we add a new thing called Path of the World Tree. So, still very much connected to nature, but they cleaned up a lot of it. For bards, we have lore and valor. Those are back. Glamour gets into the PHP now. And we also get something new called the College of Dance.
Okay.
All right.
I like that it's not just singing and instruments like it has been in all of the other ones. So, I really like College of Dance. That's fun. Yeah. For clerics, we had 7 in the original Player's Handbook, while we only had 2 sorcerer subclasses. So now... Life, Light, Trickery, and War made it in. I think that's a pretty good spread of the popular ones.
Yeah.
Knowledge, Nature, and Tempest are gone. We already know that the knowledge domain will be included in the Forgotten Realms setting coming later this year. So I expect we're going to see the other archetypes show up either in their original form or with new names and
you got to have other content for the other books.
Yeah. Exactly.
I feel like clerics were heavily weighted in 5e too. There was
I want you to know we did like 3 maybe sorcerer episodes.
Yeah.
And 5 cleric and wizard episodes. Yeah. There's so many fucking subclasses for those. You are 100% correct.
Well, it just seems like there were so many different kinds of...
Yeah.
Like so many different things you can do.
Right?
Yeah. For druids, we got Land and Moon. Again, both of them got upgrades and updates. Circle of Stars now gets into the player's handbook with very few changes. And we do add Circle of the Sea.
Okay. No Spore, huh?
No Spore. But again... We may see that later, right?
Yeah, I like that one because it kind of gave you that creepy...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fighters. Champion, Battlemaster, and Eldritch Knight return with some updates, and the Psy Warrior gets a promotion to the player's handbook.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No Purple Dragon Knight?
Purple Dragon Knight's coming, and it got completely revamped for the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah. That one was Sword Coast anyway. It wasn't PHP.
Yeah, and it was the absolute...
Garbage.
Yeah, the shittiest. It was down there at the bottom with Hunter. The Arcane Archer was the one I was expecting, and it wasn't here. So, for monks, Open Hand and Shadow, these are Warrior of the Open Hand, Warrior of the Shadow are back with some revisions. Warrior of the, or Way of the Four Elements, which was one of the weakest, gets an overhaul with Warrior of the Elements, and it looks a little bit more powerful. I haven't dug into it enough yet. And Warrior of Mercy makes it into the player's handbook now. That one was particularly dark and weird and creepy, if you wanted it to be.
Okay.
For Paladins, we get Devotion, Ancients, and Vengeance. They're back. Glory moves from Theros to the player's handbook, and this makes me think that we're probably not going to see another Theros book anytime soon. They only gave us 2 subclasses in it, and one of them made it into the player's handbook.
Yeah. With
no mention of Theros anywhere in here. There's a lot of conversations about Eberron, the Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, Planescape, when you're looking at a lot of the stuff in the core rulebooks. Hey, if you want to do this, you can put it here. If you want to do it, that's how you do it over here. Theros and Ravnica and Strixhaven, nowhere to be found.
Yeah, but those were Magic the Gathering tie-ins, right? So it's probably going to be a new Magic the Gathering tie-in.
Oh, yeah, probably. So. For Rangers, Hunter and Beastmaster are back. Hunter still sucks from what I can see, but Fey Wanderer and Gloomstalker made it into the player's handbook. Yes, the Gloomstalker is still awesome, but it's one of the few subclasses that didn't become more powerful. I think they missed the mark by leaving it the Horizon Walker, but that's just me, because I thought that was really cool to teleport around and shoot shit.
Yeah.
So, for Rogue, and again, Horizon Walker feels like a Planescape thing. If they do another Planescape book, that makes sense. For Rogues, Arcane Trickster, Thief, and Assassin are back, and Assassin is usable now, outside of just the first round in Initiative. We get the Soul Knife. That surprised me by getting into the player's handbook. That was a late edition, and I don't particularly care for it one way or the other. I'm neutral on it. I was surprised that one was popular.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I can kind of see it. It was a cool, edgy kind of...
Well, we also
I think that's what one of the ones is in Vox Machina.
Oh, yeah?
I think so.
Okay, so that makes a certain amount of sense. Critical Role touched it, so it's popular. Also, the Psy Warrior and the Aberrant Sorcerer, which I'm about to touch on, also made it in. So they have these, like, psionics is a thing. So,
Maybe
but...
get a new class, or they'll try to redo Mystics or whatever. Psionics.
No, like, psionics now are just more magic. Like, it's...
Yeah.
They use psionic now as just a flavor word. It's not a whole mechanic anymore.
Okay.
So... For Sorcerers, Draconic and Wild Magic are back. I mentioned Aberrant already, and Clockwork made the cut. And I think Clockwork did because it's Order versus Wild Magic Chaos.
Yeah.
They're still fucking sleeping on the Shadow Sorcerer. Like, it's so fucking... They did it in 5th Ed, too. Charlie's big complaint is that they left Shadow Magic out of the Shadow Sorcerer's spell list. So, yeah.
Yeah.
For Warlocks, we got Archfey, Fiend, and Great Old One patrons. So they all return, and we add Celestial as well, which is, I think, the most popular other one. You no longer have to do double duty when it comes to your character creation, because you don't have to choose a pact anymore. They took some of the stuff that was in the pacts, like, for example, the Familiar was Pact of the Chain. No, all that shit, some of it you just get stock with the class now.
Yeah.
Other stuff is absent, like we're not going to worry about it, and some stuff got built into the subclasses. But for the most part, we're not worried about the details of the pact, like handcuffing you anymore. So you still get invocations, and just like sorcerers still get meta magic. So those mechanics are still in there. I think both of these classes also got expanded spell lists as well. I know the sorcerer did, but I didn't look too closely at the warlock. For wizards, in 5th edition, all 8 spell schools got a subclass. In 5.5, there's only 4. Abjuration, Divination, Evocation, and Illusion made the cut. So again, that's Defense, Divining, Blowing shit up, and Illusion magic. What's missing are the Conjuration, Enchantment, Necromancy, and Transmutation schools. That's fucking wild to me that we don't get them.
Yeah.
I know they're going to come later because I
was expecting to see one of them in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
But it was the Blade Singing is coming.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So that's not even included there. I wonder if we're going to get a player's handbook too.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Honestly, I really hope they do the Necromancer better than they did last time. Or I wonder if like Necromancer and Conjuration is going to be close.
I always thought that the most evil one, the most evil of all of the spell schools, and we say this in previous Wizards episodes, was Enchantment.
Enchantments, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's so fucking evil. But there's some nasty transmutation shit and some gnarly necromancy. And Conjuration gets real problematic with some of the stuff that you can just start adding to your fucking world and game when you get high enough levels. So yeah. I think these ones were the most necessary to revamp and redesign. So they did the 4 easy ones first, which is fair.
Yeah.
We have a whole edition ahead of us. So any thoughts about these upgrades, these new subclasses, or how they've laid it out?
I mean, yeah, I got a lot of questions, but I'm only going to get them answered by looking through the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I have... Doing this episode was so frustrating to me, doing all the prep, because I just want to read more. So,
but it sounds like it's all easy to find the information.
It absolutely is. It is the simplest thing in the world to find. So.
That was one of my biggest gripes doing research and stuff in 5th edition, was everything was just all over the place.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that Eberron book.
Both of these books, the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide that have come out so far, so fucking easy to find what you're looking for. So fucking easy. It's not just the index is better, where they don't have stuff listed as like subheadings under other things like they've done before. There's a little bit of that, but like it's all there. Plus there's a rules glossary, plus a table of contents is so clear. It's so easy to navigate, and it makes fucking sense when you're going through it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the last thing we're going to talk about today really quickly. That's character origins. So chapter 4 really busts out into 2 specific sections: backgrounds and species. There's a little bit more in there, but here's the meat of it. For backgrounds, first of all, no more traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. You guys see it's missing off the character sheets.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
You still get tool proficiencies, skill proficiencies, and gear, or starting gold if you can buy your gear or not, right? So this is also where you get your ability score modifiers now instead of in the species or races. And they seem to have replaced those weird class features that nobody used. They're like, oh, you're a far traveler, you get, free food at fucking, like all these fucking weird things, which I thought were really interesting and flavorful, but wouldn't necessarily fit every one of those. All that shit's gone. Instead, you get an origin feat, and there's a short list of them. So the origin feats are what would be typical for like your background. So it's far more into the role-playing side of it, and then the feat uses mechanics to bolster the idea of the role-playing you wanna do. So, and then that's it. That's all that we get for backgrounds. They put such a heavy emphasis on it, but there's very little mechanical to it. You flesh out the last 5 or 6 things on your character sheet, and you're almost done with that. Then you move into species. Yes, it's species now, it's not races. Now, they're in alphabetical order, which is fucking refreshing, because Dragonborn being after humans for no discernible fucking reason was maddening to me in 5th edition. It went dwarves, elves, gnomes, halflings, humans, Dragonborns for some god fucking damn reason. So, anyways, moving on. Also, the lore is mostly gone, so it's pretty lore light, which bugs me, but I'm holding out hope that we might get expanded lore in campaign setting books. Like, hey, here's 10 pages on what the Player's Handbook species look like here? What roles do they fill? So we can still have the orcs are different on Eberron than they would be in Exandria or Greyhawk, right? So we have this is going to drive me fucking crazy. It's going to take me a long time to get used to this. The Aasimar are now included. And
Excuse me, what?
That's the official pronunciation is listed in the fucking book.
Eat shit.
Aasimar. Yeah.
No.
Awesome.
Yeah, I fucking hate it. It's so stupid.
Okay, remember the movie This Is the End?
Yeah.
And Jonah Hill's there. This is my dog, Aja.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives me that vibe. Yeah.
The sub-races are also gone for the Aasimar, but the mechanics are still largely represented.
I think you got that right.
Can I see?
Yeah, it's capital A-H. Samar.
I actually went...
Aasimar?
I actually went and looked it up to see how they were doing it in all the promotional material.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy Crawford and the other guy were both like, it's Aasimar. When we're dealing with the Aasimar, so these are the guys that fucking wrote it and they put it in the book, so...
I don't like it. I'm
still going to call them Aasimar. Yeah.
I've heard of awesomer ideas.
So Dragonborn get an upgrade. They're a lot closer to Fizzbands and even a little bit better than those upgrades. But Gem Dragonborn still aren't included, which kind of sucks. I don't think we're going to see them in the monster manual. Dwarves get a couple of upgrades, but they lose the sub-races. It's just dwarves. No more mountain or hill.
Okay. Is that the same with gnomes?
No. So elves, before we get to gnomes, get some links to the Fae. They already kind of had some links, but it's more obvious in the text now. And they get a handful of elven lineages that are broken down with some differences between drow, high elves, and wood elves. We still don't have dusk elves, eladrin, shatterkai, sea elves, or astral elves. It's just drow, high, and wood. That's it. And they all get a little 2-paragraph blurb about the lore that's different and a little chart that says these are the 1 or 2 mechanics that are different for it. So it's very clearly laid out. Gnomes also get a couple of lineages differentiating between forest and rock, like it was in the previous one. But I feel like the difference between hill and mountain dwarves and forest and rock gnomes, a forest gnome is very different from a rock gnome. I don't think that's necessarily true for dwarves, the way that 5th Ed presented them anyway.
Fair.
Goliaths are new and are still tied to giants, so that's good. Halflings get bumped to a single species, so they don't have... I forget they were Lightfoot and Stout, I think they were. Now they're just Nimble.
Okay.
And humans act as just the variant human now, so nobody played a regular human anyway.
Yeah.
The variant human gave you a feat. This one comes with a feat. There you are. Orcs are new, and they replace half-orcs. They also get a little Disney-fied, so they're less like the Tolkien version. They're not mean. If you look at the art, they're actually just like gray-skinned people with pointy ears and big teeth. There's no more of that big beefy here. Those are orcs.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure how I feel about that one.
This is them bringing them in line so that there's no longer the word savage or there's nobody that's going to mistake them as being a metaphor for, Native Americans or indigenous people.
Okay, yeah.
These are just tusked humanoids.
Yeah, with gray skin and pointy ears, right? So that's it. There is still some stuff in the stats that makes them unique and fantastical, but for the most part, you don't have to have strength and con on an orc anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're trying to distance themselves from the orcs problem. Well, I guess really the half-orcs problematic.
Well, yes, and half-orcs...
the same thing with drow?
No, but half-elves are gone too.
Okay.
So, drow got an update. They're, what are they, purple or gray or something now? You'll see that when you're looking at all the elves, they've got green skin and shit, some of them now. Elves are just as varied as the tieflings are.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, the half-elves and half-orcs are gone. In the name of inclusion and sensitivity, I understand why that would be their knee-jerk reaction, but that's just denying people that have, they're mixed-race kids. Right? You went too fucking far, guys. You could have just had how to put a half-human template on any one of these things.
Yeah. And
been fucking fine. We've already argued a couple of times in the Patreon Discord about what to do to get these half species back.
I thought you could still have them, but you just pick the traits of one or the other.
Yeah, I think there's a fucking note in there. We will get into it in the species episodes, but it's fucking useless. So Tieflings got a bit of a spotlight. They got more art than anyone else, and I gotta say, as much as they did get more text and more lore, it was way better than the weird shit we got before. Between the Player's Handbook, the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, and Mordenkainen presents the Tome of Foes, or Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, I guess. We got, like, some tieflings that were normal, that were just like, hey, we have horns so people are racist to us. We had ones that were like, oh yeah, by the way, I literally come from the lineage of Asmodeus or Belial or like this devil lord. And then we had other ones which were like, oh, this one's just feral. It's just a feral tiefling and can do more crazy magic shit. I'm like, all right, that's fucking weird. None of it fit together appropriately. Now it's streamlined. They fixed it. It's better.
Yeah.
So I think they also leaned into the fact that it's a fan favorite, so that's why it got a spotlight. Because I don't know, I've never been at a table that didn't have a tiefling. So anyway, what do you guys think? Those are the first 4 chapters, as well as kind of a look at the layout and the overview of the Player's Handbook. What are your overall thoughts here?
I definitely have more positive thoughts than negative thoughts.
Yeah.
There are some things I disagree with or I don't like as much, but I mean, overall, I think they're positive changes.
I agree.
Like, I like that it's laid out better. I like that there's, backgrounds are done a little differently, starting feats.
It does seem like it's more user-friendly. Which
100%. They actually hired on user interface professionals to come in and be consultants for this.
Well, I was actually going to say, like, that was one of my original complaints with 5th edition, was being an experienced player. Coming into 5th edition, it was, okay, well, where's this? Okay, well, where's this?
Yeah.
Okay, well, where's this? And it I got over that really quickly. They certainly addressed it. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't finding it right away.
Yeah.
But this it does seem like a really easier way to get into it.
I also kind of want to point out, and Kyle's looking at here, just a perfect example. The art in this book is fucking fantastic. We're not getting any of those, like, there may be a couple, but the, like, outline drawings in, black and white. Of
these are
sketches.
Very involved.
Yeah, like, everything's got there's no more, like, dudes standing there and posing with nothing in the background. Yeah. It's all scenes. And that's one of the things that they said about the artwork, was they wanted to show kind of a slice of life of adventuring and playing D&D in all of the art. It's one of the things I'm excited for in the monster manual, is there are no more monsters against a blank background. They're all doing a thing. Yeah. And they all get art.
Interesting.
I wonder if that's also partially why there's so many more pages, is just to make room for all the art.
Potentially. There is a lot of art in this book.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot more than the last one.
Top of the shelf on the left. Top. Left. Other left. There we are. I know, I'm wild because I keep all the books in chronological order and not alphabetical order. And, but you'll see, there's art on all the pages, but some of them is just like weird little nothing bits and pieces that are just...
Yeah, that's just footprints. That's an owl. There's nothing to it. Yeah,
it's filler art.
The
art is nice, but it's filler.
This is a filler art as well, but it's a wolf on the edge of a cliff overlooking a valley with the moon in the background and something on it.
But yeah, and it's not just the Rangers page or the Druids page. It is Circle of the Moon.
Oh, yeah, here, right? This is a druid in wolf form, and it's got his familiar on the back of the wolf, right?
Right, yeah.
It makes sense. Not just 2 random swords.
Exactly, right. So,
yeah.
So I was really happy with the first 4 chapters of this overall. I like a lot of these changes. Was there anything that you're like, I'm not wild about it, it needs to change?
No, I don't think so. Nothing, yeah.
Honestly, in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to sit down, and not with you guys, unfortunately, but we're going to get into the combat and how equipment is used differently, what the differences are with the feats. And then, Kyle, I think you were sitting down to go over some of the spell differences as well, because there's a fucking lot of them. So the big complaint I'm seeing online right now is that people don't want to change. There's nothing wrong with the book itself. It's they don't want to change editions, because you have to assume that because they've changed the wording and how the function is, for example, Cure Wounds, Counterspell, and Fireball all get wording updates and they act a little bit differently. Yeah. You can therefore assume everything fucking works differently. It's time to relearn an edition.
Well,
right.
This was, when 3.5 went to 4, it was because power creep was getting out of control. And
the bloat was brutal,
right?
Yeah.
And then when they went from 4th to 5th, there was a real problem with 4th, and they needed a problem. This is an edition that people weren't really asking for.
No, but
but it's good.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know?
People were asking for changes. They were looking for updates. Absolutely. They were bugging Jeremy Crawford on Twitter to be like, hey, how does this fucking work? And they're like, hey, you know what? 50th anniversary is coming up. 5th edition has been around for 10 years. Let's fucking do this. Yeah. Right? And I like it. Makes sense to me. So
yeah. Makes sense to me too.
My biggest gripe is that there's no character sheet in the PHB.
That we could find. You can download off D&D Beyond, and
I know, but it just feels like it should be the last page of the PHB.
That's true. I think DM's Guild has a fillable one as well. Anyway,
some people just hate change. Like, there's nothing the internet hates more than change. It doesn't matter what it is.
What's interesting is I downloaded the character sheet that we're looking at here off of D&D Beyond, but I had to go into the player's handbook on D&D Beyond to actually download it. I'm playing currently with 2 new players who are on D&D Beyond, but they don't know D&D like Sean and I do. Mm-hmm. And they both just went to the character sheet on D&D Beyond, not through the player's handbook to download it, and they got the 5th edition one. 2 different layouts altogether, right? So it was very interesting to see that the character sheet is kind of hidden.
Yeah.
That's all for this transition episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, subscribe, comment, or review to help push our engagement. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get. If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com. You can also head to itsamimic.com to find a comprehensive episode guide and more information about the show. We do have a Patreon, which not only offers access to our exclusive Discord server, but also hosts over 100 episodes, including a variety of bonus episodes covering topics like 5th edition book reviews and the campaign builder, spells and gods, fae, homebrew inspiration, and even the Blood War. If you'd like to submit any mailbag questions, please reach out to us through any of the social media links in the show notes of this episode, or send us an email at info@itsamimic.com. This has been an episode of It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.